All right. So we are on page 39, and we're now starting to dive into the topics of life. The topics that are like really really applicable to how we live our life. So we're going to start with this with time. It's very difficult to be on time, huh? Very difficult to leave when you want to be, when you're in something. The concept of time. Okay, so it is a concept. The concept is it is a concept, right? But it is a concept that, in this context, in what we're going to be discussing today, because of the fact that we've labeled time, we've given it 1 to 12, noon, morning, it actually helps us to be able to understand the natural cycles of time just that little bit easier. So it's good and it's bad. But time is a circle. I think that is undeniable. Time loops in a circle. Turn it up a little bit. It's so loud. I think that just proves my sensitivity today. um, yeah, it is a circle with no beginning and no end. It is continuous, and we see that in the sun rising, sun setting, and then whoop, comes back up again. It's there. It's obvious. Um, and it does continuous. It flows in continuous cycles, where each phase seamlessly transitions into the next. Imagine. So this is a. Sorry, Rachel, for the visualization of this, but imagine a mandala. I'm so sorry. Imagine a mandala, and the outermost layer consists of 28-year cycles. Okay. Followed by, next layer in, a 7-year cycles. Yeah. Next layer inward, moving closer to the center. Each lap represents a full year, a full journey around the sun. And then in the middle of that, we've got the months, and then we've got the days. Um, it's a very. I tried to draw this mandala, and it really perplexed my brain, and I couldn't work out how to do it. But it is. I somehow can conceptually see it, but it's like our lives as humans generally are governed. We're going to work out why in 28-year cycles. Yeah. Then within the 28-year cycles, there are 7-year cycles. Within the 7-year cycles, there's the 1-year cycle. Within the 1-year cycle, we have the 4 seasons. Within the 4 seasons, we have 3 months. Within 3 months, we have 4 weeks. Yeah. Um, so moving further in, each season unfolds through 3 moon cycles, each lasting 28 days. Each day of these cycles is influenced by a specific planet, leading to a unique energy for that day. And within each day, there are 6 energetic phases, transitioning from Vata to Pitta, then Kapha, then back to Vata again. So exploring our relationship with natural time, which is the topic for today, means harmonizing with these intrinsic cycles, allowing us to embody life fully and in harmony with the rhythms of nature. So I am talking about the natural rhythms of time, not the clock. The clock just helps us to see it. Okay, so over the page we have the Ayurvedic clock. We have a diagram that shows the full 24-hour day. All right, but we can see when the sun is highest in the sky, dawn, dusk, and the depth of night. Okay. So the morning time, which is sunrise to around 10 a.m. So generally speaking, we're about 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this is also applicable even in the West when it's winter time and it's not getting light until about 8. But these periods of time, roughly between sort of 6 and 10, are these. But it's not like the clock strikes 6 and we enter into Kapha time. There is a merging that happens. So it's not a rigid time frame. Okay. So yeah, between 6 and 10 is Kapha time. Okay, so Kapha energy dominates the morning hours, promoting consistency and routine. Establishing a morning ritual sets a positive tone for the day, and even if you're not naturally inclined towards routine, Kapha supports creating practices that adapt to your needs and nurture your commitment to self-care. So this is why when we wake up in the morning, we're like, oh, am I doing practice? It is about the self. And if you're with a lover, morning sex, nice breakfast in bed, like there's this kind of like Kapha vibe to the morning. One of them is most definitely mine. Bablu, can I have a lime soda mix also?
Can I have the lemon soda that is standing there? Can I also have the lemon soda, please? And the pineapple also. And also the pineapple. Thank you, Yash. Who's the pineapple girl?
That's okay. Okay. So morning time, Kapha time. So knowing what we know about Kapha, can we, and especially now with the fact that we probably are waking up around 6, and we go in, we do our self care before we arrive into the shala. Then we come into the shala, we do our practice, and then we go and have breakfast, and then we come back 10:30. So we've entered into the next phase of day when we then enter into the sharing. So can people feel that there is a different energy to when they arrive at the shala to when they're even just walking out after practice? Yeah, and that is the sort of transition of kapha to pitta, as it were. Um, the more that you, the more that your life transitions into this awaking early way of being, um, it's then very funny when you do then sleep and you wake up really late. It's like, whoa, it can it can shock the system a little bit, because you're so used to that kapha energy to bring you together. Like it's a uniting energy, right? So it's supporting your practice. It's supporting the coming back to yourself, the rebalancing of anything that happened the night before, having a nice breakfast, whatever it is that you do in the morning. Um, and the energy outside is really supporting you in that. So when you then go and do your practice in midday, it's like a completely different vibe, and your practice will be completely different because there's a different energy from the outside. Wow, that pineapple's really strong. Smell it. Yeah. So the kapha time is, I mean, that's one of the reasons why morning sex is also so beautiful, because again, it's that uniting time. The kapha time comes back again between 6 and 10, which is in the evening time. So again, it's that nice time, right? For some people, not for all, for some. So from kapha time, we then transition into the midday, which we're coming into pitta time. Okay. So this is when the sun is rising higher. So pitta energy peaks. This is when our digestive fire is strongest, making it ideal for consuming our main meals. And it is also time for heightened focus and productivity, perfect for tackling important tasks and projects. However, to prevent burnout, take periodic breaks and relax and recharge rather than pushing through continuously. So yeah, with the pitta energy being high, the biggest meal of the day is to be consumed, which is why we have our biggest meal, lunch, at 1:30, right? Because that's the time. Whereas breakfast, it's kapha energy. Your digestive fire is not so strong. And so we have a smaller, lighter breakfast, a breakfast that is more easy to be digested. The oats have got turmeric and cinnamon in it. It's only fruit in there. There's no nuts to come to help with the digestion. The fruits are very simple fruits that can be just eaten separately. And so it's all to promote this simplicity of breakfast rather than having a massive breakfast loading your system, and then your digestive fire is not at its strongest, and so it takes longer to digest, which then has an effect on your next phase of the day. And then because you have an insulin spike and you drop down because the body's putting all the energy, all the insulin in the body, and there's other things as well that I can't remember right now, but like all the other sugars that are required to break down the food, you get a slump. All right. And so this is also how we can work out. That is why it's fruits and oats at breakfast. Because for some people, the fruits is too much sugar because their system is already quite high in sugar. Like their body produces a lot of it anyway, enough of it. So the sugar can create like a coffee spike. Whereas the oats, there isn't that. There's no, apart from the raisins, there's no much. There's no added sweetness in it. So it's a lower amount of sugar, and therefore is probably more conducive to those that whose bodies don't create so much sugar. So for some of you, the oats will be perfect. For others, they'll be too heavy for your system. For others, the fruits will be perfect, and the other not. Yeah. So that's why it is what it is. How was the oats this morning? I put a surprise fruit in there today. Uh, There was some dates. Yeah, there was. Oh no, that's not how they. That's not. They're plums. It was plum.
Plum,
Yeah.
not dates.
Well, I mean, dates were also in there.
Ah, so I had only dates.
It tasted like olives. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
I had only
It did not taste like an olive when I put it in there last night. Sorry.
dates. Chocolate. Put it all in my
Yeah, and also to have after your meal. So coffee. Oh, we didn't get to coffee when we did food, did we? That's a real shame. So if you drink coffee first thing in the morning, even straight after your water, it will strip your intestines. If it's with milk, it strips it less. But if it's black coffee, it will just completely strip your gut. And especially if it's a continuous habit, a lot of people wake up and it's the first thing they do is have a cup of tea or coffee. But over time, even with milk, it can strip all of the goodness in the linings of the intestines that help to absorb all the nutrients. So quite often, people who drink a lot of coffee, they need to go to the toilet a lot, and they're quite malnourished, even if they've got a good diet, and it's just a consequence of the coffee going through their system. So if you hold off on your coffee until after your breakfast, it means that the food is going through and the coffee is going through with the food. So it doesn't strip, it actually moves through the system. Makes sense? But if you are high vata, caffeine is like the devil. And if you're high pitta, it's not advised because it will increase your energy. Yeah. Like high vata, if you drink coffee, it's like a spacey high from it, and you will become more spaced. And you might not. I had no idea that coffee had this effect on my system because it was so normal. It was only when I stopped and then went back to it that I then recognized. So now, if I have coffee, it has to be after breakfast, it has to be after practice, and it can only be one, if that, and it can only be like once or twice a week. If I have it more than 3 or 4 times a week, that's what happens. So yeah, but for kapha types, coffee is actually quite good because it's a stimulant for the digestive fire. So it's not a blanket rule for everyone, because everybody's constitutions are different. So if there's a day where your kapha is like, or a period of time where your kapha is really high, then yeah, that's a safe stimulant as long as it's good coffee, like not Nescafe. Nescafe is never good for anyone. Sorry, Nescafe, but it's but it's not good. Gives you heart palpitations, man. It's just crazy. Huh. Yeah, the chai and the spices also first thing not so great. It doesn't strip so much because it's more of the acidity of the caffeine of the coffee that strips. But the if like Indian chai, for example, first thing, it's just a lot of spice to go into your system. So it does do something different, but it's not advised for high pitta or high vata. Yeah. Drink water first, practice, have breakfast, then have your chai. Okay, so then we go into Vata time. So who here has ever had an office job and it's got to like after lunch, mid-afternoon, and you just want to get out? Yeah, there's like this afternoon shift. Whatever you're doing, and actually not even just in an office, it's like whatever you're doing, it's like 2, 3 o'clock comes and you're like, I need a change of environment. Something just inside you just needs to change. This is the shift from the Pitta to the Vata. So Pitta is very good for focused action tasks, which is why we have the discussion in the morning, although it is hot. But it is the best time of day for attention to be focused. Whereas Vata, as we know, is much more, so we have afternoons off so that you can eat and then you can go spend time in nature. And then we come back in the evenings to go back into the Kapha time to then go back into the embodiment or tantric practices. Makes sense? Yeah. Everything on this course is designed. It's crazy. So the afternoon is governed by Vata, characterized by movement and creativity. So embrace this time for varied activities, creative pursuits, and changes in environment. Stay grounded amidst the potential scattered energies by having snacks and maintaining stability. So for those of you who have the pleasure of being able to organize your own work day, to go through this day of, okay, between 6 and 10 is all about you, and then from 10 till 2 it's all about work, and then have your lunch in the middle of that, and then from 2 it's then about something that fills you with joy, something that's creative, something that's fun, going out into nature, going for a walk, something like that. And then the evening time is winding down, coming back to yourself, preparing for sleep. Yeah. Well, I don't understand why everything in Arambul is at 8 p.m. Just drives me nuts. Because 6 till 10 p.m. is Kapha time. So we're back into the Kapha energy. Where things are meant to be calming down, winding down, like everyone goes to the beach here at sunset, which is beautiful. And it's like the sun sets and I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to go home. Like, cause that's like coming together, but like going for dinner with friends, like nice things, like that's supportive of the Kapha energy. Who here goes out and then they're tired, they get that sleepy feeling, anytime between sort of 8 and 9, but they're still out and they're still with their friends. So then you're like, okay, I'll stay. Well, yeah, we'll get dessert. And then 10 o'clock comes and you're like, ping, let's go to ecstatic dance.
Yes.
Some people, some people feel like this is their natural way of being, right? They call themselves a night owl. Yes, no. It's because you're awake during the next cycle of Pitta time. So this is when Kapha turns to Pitta. Now, in that transitional period between Kapha moving to Pitta, we are meant to be falling asleep. So that when we are asleep, the Pitta energy can work inside of us. So when we are asleep, the body, those first 4 hours is when we go through physical healing, physical regeneration. Yeah. Very important. It's very, very, very important. They did a science experiment on like two groups of people that were all like characteristically the same. Half of them went to bed at midnight, half of them went to bed at 10. And in the morning, they all woke them up at the same time, and they tested their insulin. It is insulin levels. The ones who went to bed at 10, their levels were normal. The ones that went to bed at midnight, those test results, if they were in the doctors getting tested for diabetes, they would have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes because their body was not able to go through that healing regenerative process over the course of the day. Because they were healthy people, then the body re-regulates itself, but what it shows is the how important that period of time is in terms of your physical health, like your organs to be able to get that rest and to work. Okay, so then from 2 a.m. we go into Vata time. So this is then when we dream. This is when we go into, so the first 4 hours being the physical regeneration. These 4 hours is more about our emotional and our intuitive. So if we have the layers of the koshas that we went through yesterday, sleep is all about the physical and prana. This is then the what was it? Emotional and intellectual and bliss body, basically. So it's the time of night where you process your emotions, where you process what happened to you the day before, So it's really important. However, if you go to bed late, it gets a little bit disturbed, So it kind of puts everything out of kilter and it doesn't quite get working effectively. So for a lot of people, me included, I don't think I ever went to bed before 10 o'clock before I was 29. I don't think. I had no idea how out of whack my system was, because human bodies are incredible. The human body only wants to support us. It only wants to function. It only wants to do a good job. So it adapts. So the thing, and also we become very accepting of what becomes the norm as well. So a lot of the things, like I used to drink literally a liter of coffee, the first thing I used to do in the morning, and smoke about 10 cigarettes. I thought the enormous poo that would come after that was great, and I thought it was perfectly normal to have a second poo in the afternoon, even though all I ate was salad. I thought that was normal, but it wasn't normal. Like that was my body not being able to process the foods properly, and all of this stuff. So, but I didn't realize that until I started going to bed early, until I started drinking coffee, until I started smoking cigarettes. All of these things. So it is one. So this is why Ayurveda. It's not do this, do that. It's trial and error. See what's happening in your body. Make little changes, step like one change at a time, and see what happens. So like with this sleep thing, for example, you could make a promise to yourself for a trial of 1 month to really nourish yourself in those 2 hours before you go to sleep, so that you are asleep by 9:30, 10, and see what happens. and put you and trial it. The same with different types of foods. If something like cashews for me increase my pitta, cashews for bonsai ground her, right? So two completely different opposing reactions to cashews, right? So trial and error. Have some cashews every day for a week, see what happens. So that's what the invitation is with this always. Yeah, because you are the only person who knows your body, and you're the only person who knows what you have always done or what you think needs to be changed. Okay, so having this knowledge of the Ayurvedic clock, it's like Pitta Vata Kapha is not just something physically manifesting inside of us; it's also energy coming at us as well from nature as well. Okay, so this is a little action step. Create a daily. So in your normal life, not in course life, in your normal life, create your own daily schedule that aligns with the doshas. Okay. Now you might have a job. I don't know. So, but this is a way of seeing if there are any little changes that can be made to your day that would bring what you do in more alignment with the doshas. Yeah. When you have a baby, this all goes out the window because when baby cries, you wake up and feed. Sleep when the baby sleeps. Right. Okay. Are we understanding of the daily rhythm? And can you feel that in yourself? Like here, it's quite obvious because it's really frigging hot. So it's like, well, obviously Pitta is higher, but this is also there in winters in European countries. You can still feel it. So, can everyone here recognize this sort of Kapha Pitta Vata cycle? You're looking at me blank as if I'm just talking to no one. Yes, it does. Yes, you do. Yes. Yeah. 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 Exactly. This is how we change the world. Yeah. Yeah. But this shows how important our environments are. But also, there needs to be a recognition that we don't all live in spaces where we are actually able to be surrounded by nature all the time. So this is kind of where that action step is most important. So if your life away from this space, if it is in a city or you have a job that's 9 to 5, it's about how you can bring this energy into your awareness to better serve you to get through your week. Because also, if you're working in a full-time job, like that's an intense amount of energy required to do your job, so we need to try and support it. What are you doing? Yes, you are. So yeah, so that's where this action step is most helpful for people who have a natural way of living anyway, like living in a woodland or live in a small village or a small town where there's a lot more access to nature. Then or travelers like most of us are. Again, this is much more easily felt and easily found. Yeah, but it does so much for our nervous system to regulate to these rhythms. And if you are in an environment where there's not that much nature around you, bring nature inside. Fill your house with plants. open your windows, even if it's cold outside. Like, there's a lot that you can do to really bring nature inside, because there's also the recognition of we live where we live, you know, and there's nothing wrong with where any of us lives, but it's how can we bring this into our own environment in a way that is nourishing and not self sabotaging. Yeah.
Can you talk on what actually happens when natural is corrupted by an early alarm set?
So your Vata is increased. So if you're like, so for example, during this course, my alarm goes off at 4:30. That is an hour and a half before the natural time. If we're going to be rigid about it, right? That means that during the course, my Vata slowly goes up and up and up, and it is unavoidable. It's unavoidable, and it's because I'm being woken up in that Vata time. And the only way that I can balance it is by doing very still and grounding practices instead of my normal asana practice.
That would be sleep deprived people are high in Vata.
That's one characteristic. Yeah, can be. Yeah.
I really love this Pitta time in the night, in the evening.
I think lots of people here
I'm
like
really
Pitta time at night.
productive because it's outside, it's calm, like the
Mm.
nature and sound, and so this time is my main productive time. So to give up this seems really kind of
But why is that not happening during the day, do you think? Is it like if it's an environment like here, obviously it's very hot during the day. So there are some, so when I lived in Australia, it was literally the only time of day that things could get done because it was so hot. So there's also some practicalities that need to be placed in. But why are these things getting done at night and not during the day?
more distraction.
More distraction or
I
destruction?
get distracted.
Okay. I would say continue with your practice and you will get less distracted. Because distraction is just a consequence of monkey mind, huh? So if we can bring a deeper sense of focus through the practice, then there's less chance of distraction.
There's less going on, like generally more is sleeping at night time.
I think you're attached to a habit. I mean, it's also a way of being. Like, it is a way of being, and nighttime is a very nice time of night for a lot of people. You know, there are many things that are nice to this, but I'm talking about a human biological animal needs sleep. And
Is it possible to move this?
no,
This
I can't just shift
you
nature. I
can't
can't just change nature. No,
shift
just
this.
no. I'm so sorry. Can't do it.
Kapha time is
However,
later.
it is one of those things that so it doesn't have to be every single night of your life. You know, there's going to be things happening. There's going to be things that you're wanting to go to. So this is not a rigid rule. Because so if I go out late at night, I make sure that it's a day that is much calmer the day after, and I'll only go out maybe twice a week because I know that more of that, if I get more than 2 or 3 late nights a week, it takes time for me to recover from that. So it's also about just balancing it. Yeah. So if you know you've got a lot to do, then do it in the evening, but then give yourself enough time for rest and recovery the next day, and then continue for the next couple of days going to bed earlier. So it's about the balancing of the effect that these decisions and these choices have on us. Make sense?
Does Ayurveda acknowledge the shift in teenagers?
Yeah, teenagers need more sleep. Yeah. What, teenagers?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so do adults. So they've done this in businesses as well. So like in Hong Kong and stuff, they started the working day at 10 o'clock, and they had 1 hour for lunch, and then and no overtime is allowed, and everyone finishes at 6 o'clock, and their profits went up, and there was no one doing overtime, and the productivity and the happiness of their employees was also much better because they got more time with their families in the morning. They were able to do what they wanted in the evening because there was no option of overtime. People were really productive in the daytime, like, and it was just by starting that 1 hour later. So teenagers, they do need a lot more sleep, but it's still in these rhythms, like 10 till 8 in the morning. It's still over that time. Kapha, Pitta, Vata, Kapha. It's still over that time. So they just need a bit more sleep. And for children, it's Yeah, under 7 children that sleep when they sleep. Because they are there, because they're so changing. Everything in them is changing so much. Okay, so we understand the day rhythm. Okay, so now we get to the week. So it was mentioned earlier that the weeks have days of the week meet different planets. Okay, so Sunday is ruled by the sun, hence the name Sunday, and it's all about celebration, coming together, having friends, celebrating life. And what do most cultures have on a Sunday? Sunday lunch, Sunday brunch, it's Sunday's family day. Yeah, so there's so much in so many different cultures. Apart from in Israel, Sunday's the first day of the week, so it's a bit different there. But Sunday is the day of coming together. I am sensitive today, and so people coming in with drinks is frustrating me. Just being honest. Sunday. Why Sunday for the sun? This is to do with astrology and the energy of the sun. Yeah, and so the word Sunday has come from the sun, the solar. Yeah, but the language of sun has come from the fact that the energy for that particular day, which was felt before that, is known as the sun. So the cycles of the 7 days, each day has got a different energy. And if you remove the titles of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we just talk about the cycles of 7 days, and 7 days cycle into 28 days, which is the cycle of the moon. So these are the natural rotations of the planets around us. There's been this observation that each day has a different energy. Because Wednesday, that. So it's not about the label. Take away the labels of the names of the sun. Oh, sorry, the names of the week. Okay. And we're talking about the rotation of the sun around the planet. Yeah. The sun moves around the planet in one day and then it goes again. And then it goes again. And then it goes again, again and again and again. Yeah. These are what we have labeled as days. Yeah. So what people thousands of years ago recognized that there was a pattern that formed and each day had a different energy. And these energies correspond to the different planets, which can also correspond in astrology in a much more intelligent and intellectual way, especially in Vedic astrology. But I do not know that. Okay. So each of these rotations around the sun, there's felt to be a different energy. So one of how they have labeled this, they're starting with Sunday being the sun, and that is the day of celebration. So they noticed that every 7 days there was this urge to come together and celebrate, and that's where Sundays come from. Okay, then we move into the next cycle, and we come into the moon. So this particular day has more of the energy of the moon, and it's named Monday as well. So it's also a correlation of language there as well. So Mondays they felt a much slower pace. I mean, you've heard Mondayitis, right? It's a thing. On Mondays, things are a bit slower on a Monday. And so the energy of this particular day is in alignment with the moon. Yeah. So this is also why on Mondays we have no afternoon session. Usually the topics, apart from on this Monday, sorry, but we also have not an intense evening session. It's Shiva and Shakti circles. It's a much calmer and quieter day because it's a much softer energy for that day. Okay. Then we come into the next day, Tuesday, and this is more energy of Mars. So certainly when I worked in an office, I felt this. Monday, I was kaput, couldn't be asked to do anything. And then Tuesday, it was like I had a fire, like rocket up my bottom, and I suddenly could get everything done. And Tuesday was always a really, really productive day. And I still find that now, that Tuesday seems to be always when things get done. And it's because it's got the energy and momentum of Mars behind it. Okay. Then we go into Mercury. So Mercury's influence helps us with routine. So it's a bit of kind of a get stuff done kind of day. The tricky things, the things that require communication, the things that require a bit of tact, a bit of extra focus and concentration. So like Mars is a bit on Tuesdays, that Mars like more direct, action orientated, get shit done sort of attitude. Whereas Wednesday is like, okay, this is when I'm going to do the trickier things, the things that require a bit more time, a bit more patience, a bit more accuracy. Okay. Then we go into Thursday, Jupiter, learning day. So Thursdays, and actually this again, it's so funny, when I learned this, I then really looked at when I was in the office. Thursday was always the day that we would go out and have meetings. It was always the day that we planned meetings for, to go and meet new clients, or to go and, finalize a deal or something like that. And now it makes perfect sense, because the energy of Mercury is ruled on that day. And that's the day where you want to learn a bit more, inquire a bit more, expand. So I was like, oh, makes perfect sense. And then Friday comes into the energy of Venus. Friday. And of course, what do we do on Friday? Go on dates. Date night Friday, right? It's like known thing in society. But the energy of Venus is there. So it's also like coming together and enjoying and having fun. Um, inviting creativity, beauty, grace, and love, and to focus on activities that bring joy and enhance your sense of beauty, whether through self-care, connecting with loved ones, or appreciating art and culture. Yeah, so we in our family, for Friday night was always when we would go and do something. We'd, like, I don't know, go to the museum or go to see a show or something like that. It was always the let's go and enjoy company together kind of night. Then we come to Saturday. You here worked in an office, and then Saturday, and you're like, I'm going to sort my house out. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really got creating structure and stability in your life. So attending to responsibilities at home or work, such as organizing your space and planning for the week ahead, using Saturn's energy to complete tasks and prepare for future endeavors. And then we come back around to Sunday, and because we've organized our life on the Saturday, we've recovered from the week, and then on the Sunday we can spend time with friends. So again, these energies of the days can also be felt when you're living outside of a normal Monday to Friday work week. Might not necessarily be, it's much more subtle than it is what you can feel in the daytime, because obviously some things can disrupt it. If you didn't get much sleep on a Monday night, for example, it means that you might not have the Mars energy on the Tuesday. However, if you do, you might find that you do have more energy on the Tuesday. Like when David and I were living in Montenegro, we always found that Tuesdays was the day that we would go for like 4 or 5 hour hikes. And it was always the morning where we had the most students in the morning. So we'd always have the most students on in the morning, and then we would just go hiking for hours. And then it was like, oh, we always did that on a Tuesday, huh? It was just a fun little thing. So yes, but it is much more subtly felt, and it's not necessarily Amanda, who is my Ayurvedic teacher, when she discovered this, she organized her week in alignment with this. So she used to start work full power on a Monday. Now she starts work full power on a Tuesday, and has a 3-day weekend. She works on home online, so she's able to do that. But having that extra day meant that Monday was like a transition day for her, and it meant that she was going into the week more smoothly. She would have all of her meetings on a Thursday. She would go out and do whatever she needed to do that was about expanding and growth and creating. She would do that on the Thursday. If there was a training program or anything that she needed to do, she would train on the Thursday. So Tuesday and Wednesday became her main focused work days. And then Friday, being the energy of Venus, she would have a half day. And she was more productive when she made this change than she was when she was working 5 days a week and trying to get stuff done all of the time. So she would arrange her tasks for the week. Obviously, sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. So there's also this grace of, it's okay. Whatever we choose to do is always going to be okay. But to recognize that there are these different energies that are with us on the different days can sometimes support us. Because also we can wake up some days and just be like, it's Monday, I'm tired. I don't know, why am I feeling tired? I've had good sleep. I had a good weekend. Like, why am I so tired today? And it's like, because my body's telling me to just take a bit more care, just to come back home, So, because it's Moon Day. Yeah.
I feel like the culture in Switzerland is shifted by one day because some days are everything closed, no meetings, I don't see people on Sundays. Some places are usually Saturday night or Saturday during the day, but
Yeah.
I would never invite someone on a Sunday.
Interesting.
That would be impolite.
That would be impolite, really.
Yes.
Interesting. But there's also, like in Israel, their beginning of their work week is on Sunday. Yeah. But I mean, Ayurveda would say that this is the modern culture becoming more disconnected from the natural rhythms. That's what Ayurveda would say.
Yeah, but how can that be?
How can that be? Because of
I mean,
the way that society has developed working
no,
weeks.
the following of the days following each other feels natural. Like one, like celebration pauses the need for slowness. Slowness creates
Hmm.
potential for action, action, and
Yeah.
so on. But if it is one day shifted, how would the universe know when?
I think it would just find its own rhythm. Yeah. But it just shows that within the Swiss culture, what has found itself to be more in alignment with that particular culture is that meeting on a Saturday. That makes sense. So the shift has happened within the Swiss culture. Whereas in the UK, it's all about Sunday, getting together, have Sunday lunch, like it's family day. Yeah. But it's specific in the UK. It's family day on Sunday. You'd go out with your friends on Friday night or Saturday. Yeah. Saturday, and then you go and see your parents on your Sunday.
In Italian, you don't say Saturday, you say sabato, Sabbat. So they are more related to this.
Mm. Yeah. That's just how different cultures have evolved in their own, in the energy of their own culture, they have evolved. So, and, Ayurveda, this is talking purely natural rhythm. There's no input from society in this. This is pure animal natural rhythm.
Which stage to start is purely
Yeah, they would have started feeling this, but then as work, travel, families expand, buildings build up, then, that energy is going to shift a little bit, isn't it? I mean, people in New York certainly don't live in natural cycles. Half of them can't even see the sun. You know what I mean? So it's just there's always an effect that takes place depending on where you are. Yeah. Okay. Bonsai, can you go and check on him? No. Okay. Okay. So we've gone from days of the week, the day, to days of the week, to now the moons. And I think the moons we're all quite well versed in, huh? Full moon, new moon, quarter moon. The moons have, like, anyone here not know the significance of a new moon or a full moon? Do you know the difference between a full moon and a new moon? Your perspective is always shifting, but the energy of a full moon is much more of shining the light out. And so in you, the light of the moon is quite awakening. Also, some would say like shining light in on the shadows for them to come out as well. Hence, like the werewolf thing and go crazy on a full moon, and hysteria women being put into mental asylums because they're singing down the street on the full moon. Da da da. Um, and then the new moon is much more internal and coming into your shadows. So, and there is, again, when you live with the ability to be able to see the moon each night. And I say that because I certainly lived in places where I didn't see the moon for months. So when you are able to see the moon each night, you can start tuning into this sort of build of energy and fade of energy. And this, with women as well, the seeing of the moon every night helps our cycles to regulate and to sync. So as a woman, if you have a really random period cycle, if you stand and look at the moon for 10 minutes every day, it will help over a few months to sync your period so that you'll bleed on the new moon at, well, doesn't actually matter which one, but you will sync so that you either bleed on the new moon or the full moon. So it helps. I don't know the effect it has on men. I'm sorry. I actually don't know the effect. Yeah, this has been. Yeah, yeah. But this that language of, what did you say? Dark moon or no moon? No moon. Yeah, it's very new, that, isn't it? Like, Ah, I see, I see. Mm. Mm. Of the new moon. Interesting. Okay. Well, this is talking about the no moon. The no moon. Yeah. Which is also the death and rebirth, you know. It's like the bottom of the exhale is the same as the no moon. Mm. But we can feel it. I think it's the new moon either tonight or tomorrow. Yes, it's either today or tomorrow then. So what Ayurveda says as new moon is what Joseph was saying as the dark moon. So it is when there is no moon visible in the sky. And it's not, and that no moon, there's actually no moon visible for, this is not always correct because I do see the moon sometimes the day before and the day after, but sometimes you don't see it before or after. So there's 3 days of darkness essentially. So Ayurveda says that the new moon is very much that pit of dark, because that is the new moon being born. Yeah, yeah. So, and we can feel that energy in our month, but only when we ourselves have access to the moon. It's much more difficult to feel it if you don't see the moon every night. So when I'm back in the UK, I make a point of looking up at the moon every night because it's not, otherwise I don't see it. It's hidden behind houses. So, hmm? Never been there lately. Oh, yeah, this is also, yeah, downside of the UK. Shiva Navaratri starts tonight. Yeah, Shiva Navaratri, Mahashivaratri. Yeah. Oh, well.
Because it's Shivaratri, no?
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, they do. Yeah, 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 yeah. Thousands of people go from all over the world. Yeah, it's a very big holiday, so there will be floats on the beach tonight. Okay. So one thing that we can do to honor the moon, as I think you all know, is the like having your own little ritual for moon. Now, for some of you, that will feel like it's right to do. For others, it won't. I love doing a little bit of something to celebrate the new moon and the full moon. David used to laugh at me when I did it because he's like, "Why are you putting so much energy and intention into this one particular time? Why not just do that every day? Why not that just be your life? You know?" So it's um, so yeah, everyone is allowed to be with the moon or not be with the moon as they feel, but it does have an effect on us. I think that is what I would like to impress, is that just because you don't believe there is an effect that the moon has on you doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect. We're animals at the end of the day, and we're made up predominantly of water, and the moon shifts tides, it shifts oceans. So if we think that we're beyond that, then I don't know what the end of that sentence is. I don't know what the end of that sentence is. So there is this acknowledgement that the moon does affect us, and if we want to start to see how it affects us by making the intention to go out and have a look at the moon and just literally eye gaze with the moon for 5-10 minutes and notice how your energy moves throughout the month, and you can see it does affect women more than men because men are more susceptible to the solar cycle. So the men regulate themselves on a 24-hour basis, where the women take a month to regulate with the moon. And that's because of our hormonal cycles and because of the menstrual cycle as well. So it does take women longer to process things because it takes us a month, whereas men, because they are governed by the sun, it's much easier for them to process on a 24-hour basis. The energy is with that. Makes sense? Or 1 year. Really slow or really quick.
Yeah.
It stands still during the solstice. How have I never heard that before? Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the solstice. So we can just listen to Joseph. Well, we don't talk about it actually. It's just the acknowledgement of it. I'm not here to teach you these things, like about them. It's just the recognition so that you can check in with your own self. Yeah, as I said, the moon. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, as I just said. Exactly. So if we think that we're beyond that, then we should have a look at ourselves a bit more because we're made up of water. Yeah. Yeah. So even if you have a disbelief, there is a possible to find belief through your own self exploration. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't quite a correct sentence from me. It's not like it doesn't affect men at all. It's just it's not it affects them differently. And some might say not so strongly, but yeah,
Not not
more murders on a full moon.
not to speak against the power of the moon, but if you're arguing rationally using physics, then say
This is not a physics class, thank fuck.
the moon acts by gravity, and gravity acts on mass, and I don't compare that easily
Fair enough.
with the mass of Earth. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't
Hmm.
matter.
Yeah. And you just have to watch yourself throughout the month, really. And you can see it, even if it's just tiny, tiny little bits that change. Okay. Okay, so then this brings us to the seasons, okay, which are governed by the equinox and the solstice. So understanding the interplay between Vata, Pitta, and Kapha throughout the year allows us to harmonize with the natural rhythms of each season, promoting optimal health, vitality. Like the Georgian calendar, natural time aligns with the beginning of each season with the equinoxes and the solstices, marking the sacred points in time honored by the ancient traditions and yogic wisdom. So Ayurveda also acknowledges that the beginning of the year is at the solstice and the middle of the year is at the equinox. Like Ayurveda acknowledges that that is the year. So the equinoxes, spring and autumn, and solstices, summer and winter, are pivotal moments when the Earth's axis aligns either towards or away from the sun. So during the equinoxes, day and night are of equal length, symbolizing a balance between light and dark, masculine and feminine energies. So these alignments create a harmonizing energy that supports equilibrium and renewal across the planet. And according to Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, these celestial events remind us of the importance of balance in life, balancing work and rest, giving and receiving, and activity and stillness. So they serve as ascension triggers, prompting humanity to transcend illusions and embrace authenticity and soul growth. So the solstices, the death and rebirth is not so much felt when Ayurveda for the solstice, but more as a time of a pause. They take them these 2 points of the year as a pause to kind of recalibrate rather than, which also could be perceived as like a mini death, I guess. But the emphasis is not on the death and rebirth. Whereas in thinking pagan, yeah. So yeah, different things. Okay. All right, how are we feeling? It's literally flipped. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is everyone okay? Does anybody want to just like get up and shake? I'm aware that it is just really hot. I know that would be nice, huh? There's the time. 12:30. Okay. Okay. We're nearly there, which is exciting. So we know what the seasons are, right? Winter, autumn, spring, summer. Okay. So each of these seasons also can relate to a dosha. So what dosha do you think which would relate to winter? Yeah. For like I would say just undeniable reasons. Like everything kind of goes into hibernation. Even in the southern hemisphere. Winter is that time of things get a bit slower, even if it's still a little bit hot. Yes, I agree. We're secretly all bears.
You mean when it's winter in this summer in the northern hemisphere?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean their winter.
their
Yeah,
winter.
their winter. Yeah. Yeah, so the physical aspects of Kapha, it's cool, it's damp, it's like heavier qualities, and it's a time of conserving energy while avoiding stagnation. Now, this is the tricky part of winter, is taking time for rest and to rejuvenate yourself without slipping into a winter depression. Now, there are certain countries where this just environmentally is a little bit easier. If you go way up into Norway when it's like 2 hours of daylight and all of that much darkness, this balance is much more, much harder. And you can see that in the mental health statistics of those countries. Yeah. But then you get to countries that are very well developed and it's like cities, winter, there's no difference even between winter and summer, right? People still go out, people still go and do stuff, people are still working all the time. Like, there is no difference. It's just cold, basically. And then you go into environments, well, kind of like here, we've just had our winter and yet it's the full season. And then the monsoon is technically the summer, and that's when everyone goes into hibernation. So it's not as copy and paste as when it's cold, it's winter. And seasons are felt in different ways. And in tropical countries, it's like spring and autumn, those transitional seasons are slightly smaller. Yeah. So I would say here that the winter is more in the Pitta energy, the monsoon is more of the Kapha. So yeah. So this is written in generic terms, but it's adaptable to with common sense, basically. So it's a time for conserving energy while avoiding stagnation, and practices such as fiery yoga, sauna sessions, and warm spicy foods to help maintain your inner warmth and vitality. Uh, Watch for signs of kapha excess, like mucus production and weight gain. So how many of us have been in like a Western winter and we've kind of dipped into like a stage? We can't be bothered to get up. We don't get, we eat comfort food. We put on winter weight. Christmas comes along, we drink even more, we eat even more, then we get even more depressed in January, and then February, oh, maybe spring is coming, and then you see the first daffodil. And then you start, with the rest of your year. Like, there is this weird thing that happens. So Kapha, remembering that Kapha is really sticky and heavy, Kapha is coming from outside, it's also going to be building on the inside. So building your internal fire is what can keep you steady when you are living in those environments. Yeah. So cultivate like strong, like just cultivating a little bit of a stronger practice, asana practice, or a stronger pranayama practice. Like, yeah, spicy foods, ice baths, saunas. I mean, always, but because these are things that just give you a bit more fire, internal fire, to balance that out. Make sense? I think so. Okay, so then we come into spring. So this is when Kapha is receding into Pitta. So it's not full Pitta, it's not full Kapha, but there's a merging of Kapha with Pitta. Okay, spring signifies new growth and vitality. Pace yourself. There's some words difficult for spring, especially within the female cycles, which we'll get to. Pace yourself and avoid pushing energy prematurely. Engage in activities that foster creativity and renewal. So spring is the time for new projects, right? But it's also sometimes the time of you've had a stagnating. This is like extreme, but so you can get a picture. A stagnating winter. Suddenly, the days become lighter. It gets a little bit warmer. The flowers are coming out, and you go like rocket launching into full power. And then you use up all your energy. So by the time you get to summer, you're flat, but you're pushing through anyway. And then by the time you get to winter, you're even worse than you were the year before. So there is this idea of like, yes, we have continuous energy. Yes, we have continuous and infinite capacity, but we are also energetic beings that are working with the energies around us, not just from people, but also from nature. So when we also need to kind of allow ourselves to move with that. Yeah, so to take more time for yourself and to move a bit slower in winter, but still recognizing that you don't want to go into slumps, so keeping the fire alive somehow. And then being gentle in your spring, not going full power, pacing your pacing your workload out, or how many creative projects you're wanting to start up. Sometimes they all come at once, huh? And you're like, I've had nothing and now I've got 5 projects all at once. How has this happened? But this is when you need to put yourself first. And it's when we put ourselves first, these projects then happen. They might not happen all together, but they will happen at the right time. But if you say yes to all of them and then you burn out before any of them's even reached, because you've tried to do it at a period of time where you've just been in hibernation, you just come out. So you can start to see the effects. Okay. Summer, obviously Pitta. Full power. Now, this always makes me laugh because summer, because it is high Pitta, there is a lot of energy there, right? So we do just keep going on and on and on. But if you are high Pitta in yourself, you got Pitta on the inside, Pitta on the outside, mixing Pitta, 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 and then you have a crazy summer, and then you just complete crash and burn. So yes, the energy is supportive. You will be able to burn longer, but still look after yourself and balance that Pitta with cooling. They actually say, Ayurveda says that you should not have sex that much in the summer because it's too hot, and like intimacy creates a lot of Pitta in the body. So Ayurveda says, save it for the winter.
I think what they mean is go to England.
Yeah. No, it's not. No. So, but you can see this, like wherever you live, you'll be able to see this kind of cycle, and it's also just, it's to have that awareness that we are bigger than we might be our own universe, but we are living as part of a whole universe. And actually we're governed by all of the same things. Autumn is then when Vata comes in and the winds come in, starts to wash away, clear away, but why did I say blow away is the word I want, the fire of the summer, and it's starting to transition you into the winter time. Yeah, so spring and autumn are transitional months where it's when the energy is on the rise or the energy is on the way down. Yeah. There's no right or wrong way. If you go full power, you'll probably burn out that a little bit sooner. If you stop too soon, you'll probably stagnate a bit quicker, kind of thing. But it's just about taking it easy in those months. No. I know. How dare Ayurveda not give Vata its own season? Huh? Autumn is Vata. Yeah. But autumn is a transitional month. So it's the same as spring is transitional between Kapha into Pitta. So yeah. They are. Well, no, it does have its own month. What do you mean? It has autumn. Vata has autumn, winter has Kapha, spring has 2, or Kapha and Pitta, and summer gets Pitta. You just don't like the word transitional. Do you feel like that season got less? Oh, that's just a typo. Where's my pen? Anyone got a pen? Aha. Oh, okay. Poor autumn. Yeah, Vata season. Yeah, because then winter was the first one that we did, so then it goes into Kapha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So does that make sense? And we can feel that? It feels like the hardest thing in the world to wake up before dark, especially in a cold country, before the light, to do your practice, to stoke your fire. Pretty much the only way I can do it is if I'm living somewhere where there's an actual fire. Yeah. And so if it's literally the only way that I can actually ignite my fire when I am in a cold country. It's one of the reasons why I don't live in a cold country over winter, because I do stagnate. I do really get stuck in that Kapha energy, and it doesn't serve me. But if I'm in a place where I can stoke the fire, literally make the fire every morning, I will sit and practice no problem, and I'm great. So it's also about working out what you need and where you are and how you can make your environment serve you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now we come into the phases of life. Dun, dun, dun. So we've got 3 phases of life. these phases of life, some people will know them as Saturn returns. Um, the roughly 28, but it is different. Sometimes it's like 20. Yeah, yes. Saturn returns great. It's a great time of life, but there's two of them that happen in your life. Depending on where you were born and where Saturn was in your chart when you were born, it can take anything between 26 and 30 years to do a full loop around the sun to return back to that same spot, and that's what governs your Saturn return. And that is a big. Now, I said this before, and I'm now scared to say it because there's another physicist in the room. I said electromagnetic energy, and I got corrected and got told it was something else. And I went, I heard, and I got told electromagnetic energy. There is a force, is what I'm now going to say, because I'm recognizing that electromagnetic might not be correct. There is a force that holds Mercury in its place in relationship to Earth, right? And when it does do a loop and it comes back around, it won't come back to that same spot exactly. And that shift, that difference, then has the effect on us. This is what the astrologers say. I don't know if the physicists will say it, but the astrologers say it. They told me it was electromagnetic, and then I got told that was not right. So I'm going to go with force. But that to me also just makes sense, okay? So the first stage of life is very much Kapha dominated, okay? Because we're learning, right? We're growing, we're learning our personalities, we're forming our personalities. Everything is kind of coming together inside of us to develop as a human being, okay? And we learn away from our parents and loved ones. And then we get to Saturn return age, anywhere between 27 and 30, and we start, something shifts, something changes in us. And that for every person is a little bit different. For some people, it's a mild shift and almost unnoticed. And for others, it could be completely throwing your toys out of the pram and leaving the country and saying you're never going to come back. It can be many things. For some people, it can be breaking up with your fiance and leaving the business that you just spent 10 years building up. Like a significant, like the scale of how it affects is very personal. Numerology is nice in that sense because it can kind of give you an idea of that shift. And also your astrology can also give you an idea of that. But a shift does happen. Okay. So this is the challenge is in if inner fire feels diminished, it may indicate a disconnect from core strengths and fire purpose. So this phase encourages activating personal gifts that align with your deeper soul's aspirations. So Ayurveda would say that if you are encompassing a big shift at your first Saturn return, that shift is bringing you more into alignment to your actual self, to your true self, which is no disrespect to how you were raised or where anything like that. It's just that it would say that Saturn return is nature's way of saying, hey, do you want to come over here? And same again when you get into your later stage of life. Okay. The first Saturn return is governed by Pitta. In our 20s and 30s and our 40s, like we're basically on fire, right? That's the main, like, having a family, career, like this is the main part of our life, like in 20s, 30s, 40s, that we're doing a lot. And then it starts to quieten down when you get into the 50s and 60s. But this is like the main stage of life. And so the Pitta energy is with us. We have the most energy. So it makes sense. Okay. And then the transition into our later stage of life that happens around 58, 60. Miss Daryl. This transition is going into the more Vata. So we're going into the wise person stage of life. And this is a transition that naturally happens. And I think as you get every decade on, I think you get closer and closer to being able to understand this. Like there's something that, like in your 30s, you see things that are happening in people's 20s, and it's like you just know what's happening. But the people in the 20s are like, you have no idea what's happening, and this just sort of like keeps on happening. And I was even thinking to myself, I was singing a little song on the bike. I was like, why do we think we know everything when we're young, when we really do know nothing? But we do have this undeniable sense of self. But it's so not wrong, just unaccepting of any other way. And like, because I was really stubborn when I was a kid. I didn't want to be told anything. But lots of my friends were like that. We didn't want to be told anything by our parents or by our grandparents. Um, but then as you get older, you do start to see these patterns happen in then other people because of your own life experience. So by the time you get to 56, when Saturn does its other loop, it's like this wisdom really sets in. And suddenly people that are beyond that age, they really do have a knowing. And I think a lot of like the bond between grandparents and grandchildren is different to mother and child, right? There's something softer about it, and it's like the child is much more open to listen to the grandparents than the parents. Not always, obviously, but as a as a generalization. And I think it is to do with this softness that comes with wisdom that just is because of life experience, because of it, just because of life happening. So I ask those who are over 58 in the class, how's it going? How's your final Saturn return happening? So who here is in their first Saturn return? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So literally half of the group, if not more than half of the group actually, is here whilst they're in their Saturn return. Maybe that's what I should call it from now on. Saturn return help. No. No. That's quite fun. Okay, cool. All right, so this is how Ayurveda perceives time. Okay. Everything being in cycles, everything moving from one to another, constantly shifting between the physical manifestations of Pitta, Vata, Kapha. Okay. And then beneath that, we have the gunas also stirring things up. So the Rajasic energy is more stronger in the summer, the Tamasic energy is more stronger in the winter, Vata, see? So they all interweave on each other. Okay. Does anybody feel like their life is really not in sync with nature at all? It's totally okay. Mm. Mm. Okay. So see how knowing this, what unfolds, like, and what little changes that you find, because also I think it's also one of these things of when you're given a little bit of information like this, and you already have a felt sense of something as well, of like, oh, this feels really good. And it's like, oh, this is something that I can cultivate even when I'm back home. Yeah. I would say the most helpful is the day to day thing. The day to day thing is has the biggest and quickest impact, and then helps to align somehow the rest of the year. So if it feels like a really big thing to try and think about or bring into your life, start with day to day, little day to day things. Setting the intention to go to bed early, whatever it might be, whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. But yeah, sometimes making that like, how in an ideal world with everything that I do in my life, how would I like my day to look? And writing that out can be really helpful, especially if you do have a full-time job, because they're all kids or both. Yeah.
I can imagine the planet you just said, the electromagnetic one,
Yeah.
pushing me
Saturn.
somewhat to
And I could feel you before I even said it going,
to a disruptive change of my life phase, but I feel like there's other forces pushing me as well.
mm,
And I feel like there's more life phases to go through. So then my lifespan will count 28 years.
mm.
And so that's so maybe one of the things. And waiting for the next age that has no reminder when divided by 28 would maybe be spiritual bypass.
It definitely can be. Saturn return, I have witnessed be used for spiritual bypassing. Oh, it's my Saturn return, you can't hold me accountable. What? No, but I think it's fun when you don't know anything about Saturn returns, and then you go through it, and then in your early 30s you then learn about Saturn return, and you're like, ah, that's what was going on. That's like the fun way around of doing it, because yeah, otherwise you can just dismiss a lot that's going on, or just kind of accept a lot that's going on without actually looking at what is being asked to look at. um Love it. No. Mm. I have heard of the planets affecting collective Kundalini energy. So, like in the age of Aquarius, for example, when that big shift happened, and also at the beginning of this year when there was the all planets were in alignment, like that was a big global. Some people said a big global Kundalini awakening because all the planets were going into alignment. So it's tomorrow. I thought it happened a month ago. Wow.
We're in a very astrological period of time right now where lots of synchronicities are occurring and alignments are occurring more frequently.
It's like the best year of my life so far.
And it's only February.
um oh god. So that's tomorrow. That's really cool. Yeah, that is tomorrow. That's cool. Well, we can all think of that in our practice tomorrow morning, can't we? Because that is meant to be a big global Kundalini awakening. Oh fuck. Okay, take your space tomorrow morning in practice. Okay. All right. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. And it also comes back to recognizing where you've come from and accepting where you've come from. So a lot of travelers like to chase the sun and they don't want to. Why are you not working? They don't want because they're running away from something, right? I was one of these people. And so I just chased the sun. And so I never had a winter. I think I went 4 or 5 years without a winter, and then I went back into winter, and I was like, my whole body went into like what felt like shock, but I went into such a deep hibernation, and then coming out of that, it was like a whole new life began. And yes, they were very dark months, but they were some of the best months because of exactly that. It's recognizing. So we also have to be careful if we are travelers by nature to also give ourselves times of winter, even if it's not if you have winter where you come from. That is, you know, um, if you're a tropical baby, then it's a bit different. It's about giving yourself that wet time, giving yourself the monsoon or giving yourself the heat and not denying yourself of that. And it's the same with the foods that we eat as well. It's like accepting where we come from and bringing that into our being, you know, eating seasonally as well. Yeah. And it gets me like here, it's quite good. You can eat seasonally quite well, but actually more and more over the last couple of years, there's a lot of things that are not in season suddenly arriving. And I'm like, where did you get these from? And they're like, South India or something, and then you think about how far away that is. It's like that's crazy. Um, but yeah, eating seasonally also helps the organic nature of us to support.
Found eating seasonally and eating locally
Mm.
has impacted my sense of place so much.
Yeah.
In terms of like where I am in the year, where I am like on the world,
Yeah.
where I am in myself. Like I didn't think such a simple thing
Yeah.
affected so much, but it really has.
like we are animals. Like it is actually, it's really that fundamentally simple. Don't eat from a packet. Eat seasonally. Eat from your land. Accept where you come from. Don't necessarily live there, but accept that your body is going to have the biology that requires the seasons shifts as of wherever you were born. And the more that we go against that, or not go against, the more that we just don't live in that way, the greater the imbalances will happen in the body. It is inevitable, but we might not be aware of them as they are happening. And it might only be, and this is why the beautiful idea of like coming home to yourself, it's like you can start to see, where am I not living in alignment with nature? And being on screen time at night is definitely one thing. Sunsets, screens down, and I'm a nightmare for it, but people need replying to. People get very. But now I'm much better. 9 o'clock, phone goes off. I won't be on my phone past 9 o'clock anymore. I can't do it, especially during a course. It completely fries my brain. But yeah, everyone here is embracing the fact that we're animals. I quite like that. Yeah. Okay. I feel like I'm complete with the recordings, and I really want to put the microphone down. So can we stop,
Yes.
please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh.
But Julian, can you just do me a favor? Can you just open your legs again? Fluff on your balls.